3 candies that can kill you. With chewing gum, you could blow bubbles, use it for focus, or just chew it for flavor. One guy found out that dipping it in citric acid prolongs the taste, but one night he dipped it in the wrong bowl. The bowl contained an unknown chemical that was possibly explosive. All it took was one chew and the gum exploded in his mouth. Unfortunately, the 25-year-old died from his injuries. Fun Dip are little sticks that you lick sugar off of, but for some kids that wasn't enough. They decided to inhale the sugar through their nostrils. When it's inhaled, it goes in your lungs and makes your nose bleed, and all sorts of risks can occur. Kinder Surprises were really popular. You get a tasty chocolate egg with a fun toy inside, but they were banned in America due to a law that states you can't have non-edible objects in any type of food. Some kids would think the toy inside is another candy, which caused a 3-year-old to pass away from choking on a Kinder Surprise toy. 2 times Google Maps saved lives. One day Sander Cochler was on his way to work when an ex-employee named John Charles kidnapped him. He said their boss owed him money, so he wanted to use Sander to set up a meeting with him. When John left the room, Sander used Google Maps to send his location to his boss. When his boss got his location, he called the police and drove there immediately. John was then arrested and sentenced to 8 years in prison. When Saru was 5 years old, he got on a runaway train in India which separated him from his family. He had to start a whole new life by himself, and he searched for his family for 23 years. Since he was so young at the time, he couldn't remember where they lived. The only thing that he could remember is that his hometown was closed off by 2 bridges. When Google Maps came out, he used it to find the 2 bridges and he found them. He then traveled to his hometown and was reunited with his family. This is the luckiest man alive. Frane Selleck was riding a train when it went off the tracks into a river. 17 passengers died, but he was able to swim to shore with nothing but a broken arm. The next year when he was on a plane, a door detached from the aircraft and it crashed. 19 people died, but Selleck was found in a haystack with a few bruises. In 1996, he was on a bus when it drove into a river. 4 people died, but again he survived. In 1970, his car's fuel tank exploded on the highway. In 1973, his fuel tank leaked and his car caught on fire. Fast forward to 1995 and he was in another bus crash. The next year when he was driving, a truck came barreling towards him. He jumped out of his vehicle and watched it explode. Animals that are bigger than you thought. This is how big horses' lungs are. This is how big a giant leatherback sea turtle is compared to a human. Here's how big a giant African land snail is compared to a hand. Here's how big a blue whale's heart is compared to a human. Here's how big eagle's claws are compared to a hand. And here's how big a saltwater crocodile is. The most expensive things thrown away. J.K. Rowling, who wrote Harry Potter, gave an interviewer one of her books. He thought it would be a flop, so he threw it in the trash. Today, the first edition of the copy sells for over $80,000. In England, one of the machines used by the British government to decipher secret messages during World War II was thrown into a recycling plant. The machine is valued at $10,000 and is considered one of the most important pieces of history in the world. A woman in the US took her 1976 Apple I computer to a recycling center. Not too long later, the owners of the center auctioned the computer for $200,000. But they're now trying to find the former owner to share the money with. James Howell lost 7,500 bitcoins in 2013 after losing the hard drive that he stored them on. At the time, one coin was $130, but today each coin is $40,000, meaning he lost over $300 million. 1 in a million coincidences. These 2 trucks lined up and said Taylor Swift. This guy took off the mask and looks more like Mario than Mario does himself. The mountains on the truck lined up perfectly with the mountains in real life. These 2 ladies were dressed up almost the exact same and they're doing the same thing. This news reporter looks the exact same as the robber that's on the loose. You can only ride this roller coaster once. JuliaBeautx designed this roller coaster called the Euthanasia Coaster. It's capable of holding up to 24 passengers. Once they're all on board, it starts to slowly ascend to the top, which is 510 feet in the air. That's just a little bit smaller than the tallest building in America. Once they're at the top, it gives everyone the decision to stop and go back down safely. After that, everyone has to manually press a button to start the ride. Then it falls at a speed of 223 miles per hour and goes through 7 loops that keep getting smaller. It's designed like this so riders maintain 10 G's of force for a full 60 seconds. Everyone's blood would rush to their feet, leaving no blood left in their brain. This causes them to lose their vision and eventually black out and die. It was designed for people with uncurable diseases who wanted an unpainful death. Unexplained mysteries caught at schools. In 1961 at Westall High School in Melbourne, several students spotted a UFO that flew at low altitude. It made its way through trees until it took flight again and disappeared. Another unexplained mystery is the strange stench that hit a high school in Rhode Island. The stench, which was apparently from the cafeteria, was so strong that they had to suspend final classes. But to this day, they still have no clue what it was from. The Cokeville miracle occurred at an elementary school, where a former police officer and his wife brought a bomb to the school. They kidnapped the entire school in exchange for a large sum of money. The bomb exploded and the couple died on the spot, but thankfully none of the children were harmed. This delivery driver saw the words "help us" on a package and ended up saving a life.
You're not gonna need a part 2. A UPS driver in 2016 became a hero when he rescued a mother and son. After finding a message on a package he was delivering, a man named James was holding his wife and his 3-year-old son captive at their own house. He kept his son locked in a bedroom with no food and water for up to 18 hours a day. And he was also physically abusing his wife, so the wife came up with a plan to escape. So she wrote a message saying to call 911 on the package she sent out, hoping that someone would see it. A UPS driver saw the message and decided to call the police in case it wasn't a prank. And because of him, the SWAT team ended up going to the house and rescuing the mother and son. James was taken into custody and was charged with multiple counts of assault. Make sure to follow me to end part 2s.
5 photos you'll have to look at twice. At first it looks like there's a giant pigeon, but it's actually just sitting on a ledge and the person's walking in the distance. At first it looks like there's a human dog, but the dog's actually sitting beside its owner. At first this looks like some weird looking cat, but it's actually just 2 cats laying in the exact same position on each side. At first it looks like this fish has an arm, but the fish just got too close to the camera. And finally, it looks like this person has a small head, but it's just the head from the person in front of them. Here's how fans found Marshmallow's real identity. In this picture on Instagram, you can see a red tattoo through the hole in his jeans. The DJ Chris Comstock also has a red tattoo on his leg. During this interview with Skrillex, someone named Chris phoned him and he said it was Marshmallow.
And who's that right now?
It's Chris.
Oh, Marshmallow.
Finally, the DJ Feed Me posted a picture of him wearing Marshmallow's mask on his Instagram story. And if you look in the mirror, you could see Chris Comstock taking the picture with the rest of the outfit. It was later deleted, but fans noticed this and took screenshots. Secret messages hidden in popular logos. In Baskin-Robbins, the B and the R also have the number 31 to represent how many flavors they have. In the Tour de France logo, the O, U, and the R are shaped as someone riding a bike. The bottom of the Levi's logo is the same shape as the pockets on their jeans. The coat of arms of Bern, which is where Toblerone chocolate is made, has a bear on it. And so does the logo. The tire company Continental has the C and the O shaped as a tire. Now before I tell you the craziest one, I found this app that tells you your celebrity lookalike. Just press this button on my profile if you want to try it too. The reason the Apple logo has a bite in it is so people wouldn't mistake it as a cherry. Here's 3 common things that you don't know the purpose of. Number 1, the hole in donuts. A long time ago, it was hard to get the edges in the middle equally baked, so they came up with this shape so they didn't have any problems. Number 2, the red line on paper. In the past, mice and rats used to chew on paper, so to prevent losing any information, they started leaving spaces where the damage was most likely to occur. And number 3, the dimples in golf balls. Golf balls used to be completely smooth, but players realized that cracked and scuffed balls flew better, so they kept using their old ones. So manufacturers started adding dimples so people would buy new ones. 4 ways you've been secretly tricked by companies. In the list of ingredients on a product, manufacturers often use the scientific name of certain ingredients to confuse the customer. This way you don't quite understand if the ingredient is healthy or not. Limited time offers are a trick to create a sense of urgency so that you buy the product before the sale ends. But in reality, it's probably not a real offer or it may never end. Advertising agencies alter the photos of the products they're promoting in order to make them look more eye-catching. In most photos and commercials, they don't even use real food. They use glue for milk, car oil for syrup, and coffee bubbles are actually soap. Companies give a human character to an animal or object to get you to buy their product. It makes them look more adorable and it'll give you the confidence to buy it. Some examples are the Duracell bunny and the Fruit Loops toucan. 3 people who beat the system. After this person's landlord said they couldn't paint the walls in their apartment, they decided to get paint strips and cover the walls. This person's teacher won't let them eat in class, so they filled an empty lip balm with cheese so they could sneak it in. This person was only allowed to have a 1-page cheat sheet, so they wrote a whole page of notes in red pen, then another page in blue pen. Then they brought 3D glasses to class, so when they looked through the red side they could see the red pen, and when they looked through the blue side they could see the blue pen. Here's 5 world records you didn't know existed. The most toothpicks in a beard. It took Joel 3 hours and 13 minutes to put 3,500 toothpicks in his beard. The longest hair on a teenager, which is 5 feet and 7 inches. The longest hula hoop spun, which is just over 17 feet in diameter. The tallest hat, which is 15 feet and 9 inches. And finally, the largest table tennis bat, which is over 11 feet tall and 6 feet long. Here's why you should never swallow gum. In 2011, Samantha Jenkins fell into a coma and later died at the age of 19. After her death, her mom found dozens of empty gum packets in her possessions. She felt ridiculous, suggesting that it might have something to do with her death, but she thought it was worth mentioning. The doctor later said the cause of death was because of a lack of minerals in her body, which was caused by malabsorption because of the chewing gum in her stomach. You were today's years old when you found this out. Owls' legs are longer than you thought. When someone tells you to break a leg in an audition, it's because they want you to end up in the cast. When the first episode of a show is called pilot, it's because it's the first time they're on air. The L in the store Staples is a half-open staple. Flames don't have shadows. The blue side of the eraser is meant to clean up smudges made by the pink side. Here's what movies look like without special effects. The Mandalorian was filmed in a studio with one big screen. Here's how Spider-Man flies in the sky. Here's what Thanos actually looked like before special effects. Most racing scenes aren't actually filmed in the streets, but in a studio. Although Jumanji was filmed in a desert, some scenes had to be filmed in a studio. The actors who play the monkeys in Planet of the Apes actually look pretty funny. And here's what I look like without special effects. Kids who remember their past lives. Sam Taylor is a boy who was born shortly after his grandfather passed away, and in his first year he already had memories of his grandfather's life. He even said to his father, "I remember when I used to change your diapers," when Sam's father was changing his. Shanae is a boy who was born with 2 birthmarks on his head. From the age of 3 he started having memories of his past life as a teacher, who was killed by a gunshot to the head. James Leininger is a kid who started having nightmares at the age of 2, about his past life as a World War II pilot. He claimed that in his past life he was the pilot James Houston, who was shot down in action in the Pacific Ocean. Scientists may have found a way to live forever. There are companies that freeze you as soon as you die. This is called cryonics. They remove your blood and replace it with antifreeze so it keeps your cells alive. They then put your body in storage and freeze it at minus 320 degrees Fahrenheit. They hope that one day in the future, when technology and medicine evolves, they could be brought back to life. The dumbest lottery winners. After winning $1.3 million in the California lottery, Dennis Rossi filed for divorce from Thomas Rossi so she wouldn't have to share the money with him. Thomas decided to sue her for violating state law and he kept all the money. Michael Carroll won $14 million when he was just 19. After claiming he wouldn't spend the money on dumb things, he bought multiple luxury cars, mansions, and other expensive things. To this day, he lost all his money and works at a cookie factory. Jack Whitaker won $315 million in the US lottery. When he claimed it, he took it all in cash. However, thieves broke into his house and took millions of dollars. Here's the 3 most dangerous kid toys. In the 1990s, Rollerblade Barbie was released. Each rollerblade used the same wheel mechanism they use in cigarette lighters. So when the Barbie was rolled, it would shoot out sparks. In 1996, the Cabbage Patch Snack Time Kid was released. It ate plastic foods that came with it and exited through a hole in the backpack. But the toy couldn't tell whether it was plastic, your finger, or your hair. And one girl's hair was ripped down to her scalp. Finally, in the 1990s, Nickelodeon released Moon Shoes, which you would strap onto your feet and the springs would help you jump higher. However, they weren't very safe and lots of people sprained and broke their ankles. Here's what to do if you drop your phone in the toilet. First, get your phone out as soon as possible and dry the outside with something like a towel. Then power off your phone completely so you avoid short-circuiting it. Now, if you have an iPhone, take out the SD card on the side, but if you have a phone that lets you remove the battery, do that to allow more airflow so it could dry better. If you can, use a vacuum to suck out the water, but if not, tilt your phone side to side to allow the water to drop out. You may be thinking, Luke, what about putting it in rice? Well, studies showed that the best and quickest way to dry your phone is to let it air dry with good air circulation. Here's what actually happens during sleep paralysis. Sleep paralysis is when you feel like you're awake, meaning you could see and hear, but your body's still asleep and unable to move. During this, you may be unable to move or speak for a couple seconds or even a few minutes. Some people also feel pressure on their chest as if someone was sitting or standing on it. You might even be afraid because of a nightmare that you were having. This usually happens when you're first falling asleep or your body's getting ready to wake up.